Hi class, my name is Bianca Medina, and for my project, I'm going to be making sourdough starter. So sourdough starter is just easily made through flour and water, and you can use any kind of flour. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to be using all-purpose because that's what I have, but of course you can use it with gluten-free flour. You can make it with whole wheat flour, depending on your liking. As I mentioned, I'm just using this because this is what I have available in my kitchen. Now, through the sourdough starter, we're going to be making wild yeast. Wild yeast is basically the fermentation of the flour and the water. This is different from commercial yeast, which you see being used to make cinnamon rolls, donuts, maybe even pizza dough. But wild yeast is through the fermentation process of the flour and water. There is naturally enzymes and microorganisms living in this flour, which is why it's very important to not eat cookie dough raw because it's not safe for you. And what we're going to be doing is that there's naturally organisms living here in this flour, and we're going to be feeding it through proportions of flour and water for 7 days. This will be sitting in my cabinet in a dark space. This is going to allow the flour to activate, and have the process of fermentation of the flour and the natural organisms that live in the flour. We're going to be checking up on this starter every single day. As I mentioned, through elevation and because of the weather, it might take a little bit longer, but I'm going to be checking on it every single day because the air in this container is going to be the leavening process for the sourdough to rise up. That's usually what yeast does. That's what the bacteria is used for in baking. And we're going to be able to see if there's leavening happening because every day as we check up on it, there should be bubbles forming up on top. And when we make sourdough, you're gonna see air bubbles in the actual slice of bread, and that's what's gonna indicate that not only did your bread actually rise, the fermentation process of the sourdough starter worked perfectly. So I've opened up the jar, and as you can tell, there's some bubbles. You see some little bumps in there, and this is the second day, so you can tell that the leavening processing is happening. You can tell that by the little bubbles that the enzymes in the flour are well and alive, are thriving. And I'm going to be feeding it today. I'm going to be showing you what it looks like, what the process looks like. And I'm going to be doing this for the next week. I won't be showing every single clip of that, but I just want to show you what it's like, what the process is like to feed the enzymes in the flour that will help bake the bread. So the first thing you want to do is mix this up so that the creatures in here are well incorporated. And you're going to take out, because I started with a 1/4 cup of flour, a 1/4 cup of water, I'm going to continue that process, but first I have to dump out half of it, which is about the same size, about 1/4 of a cup, because it has doubled up in size since the last time. Yeah, you can see a lot of the bubbles coming out, which is a really good sign. And you're just going to discard that. You can throw it away in the sink. And now I'm gonna feed it, like I said, the same proportions. It's 1-to-1, and I'm using about a 1/4 cup of flour. And yeah, guys, it's pretty simple. Like I said, I'm not gonna film every single time because the process is pretty repetitive. This is gonna go on for about a week. Once again, you want to fully incorporate it. So as you can tell, there's some bubbles happening, and that's just the enzyme coming back up. And that just goes to show that you're not just throwing away all the enzymes when you throw away half. They're still going to be there. They're just not as much bubbles right now because I just fed it now. But as long as you still see some bubbles, that's some good signs. You just want to continue to mix up, feed. And that will be your key sign that the enzymes in the flour are harvesting your wild yeast and helping you for the fermentation of the sourdough bread. So now that it's done mixing in and fully incorporated, I'm going to close it back up, keep it back in a warm place in a cabinet, and wait for this to continue to rise, bubble up, feed it, and that way the enzymes stay healthy and living, and that will help with the leavening process of the sourdough. Okay, so I'm done baking the bread, and I want to show you guys so you guys can see that the enzymes in the flour were alive and helped with the leavening processes. As you can see, there's a bit of holes around the bread, around here, and that just is the proof that the flour and the enzymes in the flour were alive, helping the bacteria in the bread form wild yeast, the fermented yeast in this process. And yeah, guys, that's all I wanted to show you guys. Thanks so much for watching. See ya.
ya.